I'm Marcia Lehman, and I'm a Knox County Master Gardener. Today we're pruning a Shasta Viburnum. If you look at this plant, it is not a native, that's okay, but it is a very attractive viburnum because one of the things that's different about it is that it tends to have a horizontal branch structure. It doesn't require a lot of pruning. We want to get rid of anything dead and crossing rubbing branches and the like. But the last thing we want to do is to go in and cut it and destroy that horizontal branching structure. So as we prune, we're paying close attention to those horizontal branches and keeping them. And we'll be focused more on taking off things that want to go straight up through the center to give it a little more airflow and sunshine. And these can get 10 feet wide and about 12 feet tall. So as we've panned up on this one, it's much taller than I am. So as usual, I'm going to start in the bottom because there are some younger shoots that are just growing up in the center and they're not producing any horizontal branches because they're not getting any sunlight. So we're going to start there and clean that up. I encourage you to look at the handout. But again, this Shasta Viburnum requires very little pruning. It's mostly taking care of the 4 Ds: dead, disease, damaged, dysfunctional, finding any rubbing, crossing branches, and if you can unentangle them, that's great. If you can't, then one needs to be removed. And we want to keep the older branches because those are the ones that have gone horizontal. So it doesn't need to be pruned every year, but you do need to regularly inspect it. The other thing that the handout shows is in spring, when it flowers, it is absolutely gorgeous because it is considered to be a double file. It has a very complex flower. In the summer, it's covered with lots of luscious green foliage. In the fall, it turns a lovely purplish color, and then in the winter, obviously, it drops its leaves. So you've got great 3-season interest in this Shasta Viburnum. So, enough of my talking, let's get started. I'm in here at the bottom, and the first thing I notice is coming off of the main stem is this branch that just wants to go straight up. So I'm going to take that off. And we'll toss that out here. And then we've got a great example of some of these horizontal branches. Some of them are just a little crowded. So we'll take a couple of those off. And then, again, coming straight up through the center with nothing branching off of it. Another, I mean, for a shrub that wants to put out horizontal branches, if you've got a stem that is just this straight, in the center, not getting any sunlight, it's probably not going to branch the way you want. This one wants to go all the way through the shrub, but now that I pull it out, I think it will be okay. I'm also looking here at the base at some really small, almost skinny growth. It's never going to have a chance in a shrub this size. So we'll take that out. The Shasta Viburnum is a multi-stem shrub. And so the key is to pick the main stems we're going to keep and then trim some of the smaller stuff as it emerges. Don't let it get too big and get really crowded there in the center. Here's another one. Because as you'll see, the challenge then is how do you get in there to cut out some of this extra straight stuff. So I think at that point, I've got a couple. For the video, we're going to work on this side of the shrub. We don't have a good spot to set up on the back side of the shrub, but pruning the back side is going to be a repeat of what we're doing here in the front. So now I had actually used some bungee cords to tie these branches back so you can see. So we're going to pause so I can take those off, and we'll show you what it looks like now that I've taken a couple of those stems out. As you can see, you probably can't see me, but we've got these nice horizontal branches. And that's what we want to maintain because that is part of the nature of this shrub. So I don't really want to take those. Unless, of course, like the one right in front of my face, was already broken, so it had a wound there. And then the bigger issue is, as we come around, we have a few places where they want to rub against a bigger, major stem. And that's not good, because that creates a wound, which can then open up for disease or insects. So this stem, if you can see my hand, has lots of shoots that come off, and there's one right here in front of my face that wants to wrap around, and so it really does need to come out. And that's a locker cut, and I'm going to have to make two cuts. One right in front of me, because I can access it, and then I will have to come back around to this side to clean up that cut. But that branch wraps around behind this stem and then starts to rub into this stem. So again, cleaning up rubbing branches is one of the things you would do on this. And I would say this shrub has probably gone a few years without a routine cleanup for the 4Ds. And so, yep, today we have a little bit of extra work to do on that. Again, while I'm down here sitting on the ground, I can clean up some little spindly stuff that I now have access to that you can't see on the camera. So I'm going to shift again and come back around to the other side so we can continue working on this. So as I come in here, I did make a second cut to clean up the one I just showed you. But I came up and I found this where my hand is, and it looks like a prior cut, but it left about a 2 or 3 inch stub. And when I pressed on it, it's clearly dead, so we need to get that out of there. Now that brings up the point of when you make a pruning cut, you want to come back to a node. You don't want to cut in between nodes. Always make a cut right above a node and not in between a node, because in between nodes, that part back to the next node is going to die. So spare it that and just make the cut at a node. And the other in making cuts is make it at the branch collar, which means it looks like you have a tiny little stub, but it's not. The branch collar is the material that helps that cut heal. If you make a flush cut with the trunk, now you're removing trunk bark, and that will not recover. So what I'm doing now, looking at the center, again, if we just follow my hands, you see this nice horizontal branch here. Here's a nice horizontal branch. There's another horizontal branch, and another. This comes out, and then it looks like there was some damage here at one time, so I'm not surprised that we have a couple shoots that want to go straight up in the center. So those will come out. So one of the things I'm looking for are straight up shoots in the center, because they just are never going to get the sunshine they need to develop the growth habit that the Shasta naturally has. Again, you can see, particularly right here on the right side, this horizontal branch structure, and we do not want to mess with that. We want to keep that. But we do want to thin out this a little bit. Some of that we will get from the back. So we've cleaned up the center of this shrub on this side of the shrub. And now what's left is to come in and look for anything that's truly dead. And you may or may not be able to see it, but no. This had very little growth on it, and I decided not to keep that, but all of this is dead. It's just crunchy dead. So not a lot of that, but you know, every plant gets a little bit of that, particularly from winter. And as I come in here, I find a few more crossing rubbing branches. But I think we're basically done on this side of the shrub. So what we did here, we're going to repeat on the rest of the shrub. We finished cleaning up this Shasta Viburnum. And the first thing I want to point out is if we zoom down to the bottom, you can now see the major stems. This is a multi-stem shrub. And clearing out some of the low-lying stuff will allow the monkey grass growing underneath to get a little more sun. The other is that a lot of that stuff is just growing straight up because it wasn't getting enough sunlight to develop the horizontal branches. We did not destroy the horizontal branch structure. We still have all this horizontal branch structure that the Shasta Viburnum is well known for, and it's one of its major features. But if you look straight through the center of the shrub, you can now start to see some of the things that might be behind this shrub. Before, it was just a really, really dense mat. So as we moved around to the back and did the same thing that we did on the front, removing anything dead, removing one of the crossing or rubbing branches, and then maintaining the horizontal structure, we have significantly thinned out this shrub. And it looks so much better. And yet at the same time, if we zoom out completely to get a pan from the bottom up to the top of the shrub, if you were just driving by, you would not say, gee, there's a shrub that's just been pruned. And that's the key to a good pruning, is that the shrub looks good. You know it looks good. You may not be able to explain why it looks good, but it doesn't look like it's just been whacked by somebody with a hedge trimmer. Again, we thank you for joining us today and hope you learned something.